So is this stored and then like, we can go back and watch it later?
Yes, this will be stored on YouTube, but I have it set up to be unlisted. So once everything is a go. Actually, I just started the broadcast, so the recording is happening. People can see.
Can they see all of us or just you?
No, they can hear everyone, not just me.
Oh.
I am just very glad to find out that all of Amanda's friends that she keeps talking about are real.
Oh, they can hear us. Sure.
Thanks, honey.
Okay. Awesome. Those are my faces.
You want to have
All right. So, the Mingling of Souls. Has everyone read it?
Yeah.
some of it.
I don't know what's happening with that.
Alrighty. I think we're... Yes, we are live. Let me know when you guys are ready.
Sure.
We're ready.
Thumbs up. You see all the thumbs. Uh-oh, Kyle bailed. We lost Kyle.
Still?
Yeah, but we gained my wife, so.
Okay, there we go. Hooray! Make sure.
She realize she's online?
I think so.
There it goes.
Ah, a baby. Hi, baby. Hi, baby.
Hold on. I'm going to try to... Andrew says he's having some difficulty. I'm going to try real quick to see if I can invite him again.
Are you talking?
Oh, okay. He's watching. All right. So, hey guys.
Hi.
It's great to see all your faces. I make faces at myself when I can see. This is what Chris sees all the time. Sometimes we make faces at each other while we're chatting just to mess the other one up while they're talking.
Wait, where is Chris?
He is with his father-in-law. His father-in-law has been visiting them the last week, and this is his father-in-law's last day. So he is out today. But he will be here next week to set it up, and he is reading the book. I do have the comment tracker view, so I should be able to see comments as they come in. If anyone is watching on YouTube and wants to make a comment about something in the book, I think those are the only comments that I'll really be able to see. I'm going to also try to watch the comments for this post, but it's going to be difficult. Great. So we have a big old group today. So first question, we'll make our way through. I know James and Kyle didn't make it all the way through the first two chapters, but it's okay. It's okay. I can't tell you how many book clubs I haven't followed all the way with. But who has made it through the first two chapters of the book? I guess.
I did.
I did.
Okay.
Hey.
Reading I finished mine like 10 minutes ago, though.
Oh, good. So you'll have a lot to say. You have the freshest memory.
Maybe.
We're about halfway through chapter 1.
Okay. Cool. Alrighty. Excellent. So let's dive in. So I assume everyone at least read the introduction before they dove into chapter 1.
I didn't.
Oh, this is interesting because usually in most books introductions are meaningless, right? Like they're just some fluff the author adds to the beginning, right? But in this book,
that's why I didn't read it.
Gotcha.
I always skip the introduction.
So my biggest pet peeve about books is that the introduction is like 3 chapters long and nothing happens. And so this time I was like, I'm not going to read it. And then I was reading through the book and I'm like, I'm getting the feeling that I really should have read the introduction this time.
Yeah, he does intro it. So for someone who did read the introduction, why did Matt Chandler write this book? You can look. You can cheat. I'll give you a hint. It's on the first page.
My book's on my phone.
Too many other books on Amazon about things he didn't like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was all these books about different topics on sex and divorce and all these extremes, and he had said that there really went on that, I guess it was all about dysfunction, right? So, okay, it's
Yeah. No, that's it. Other people can chime in too. You can interrupt me. Yes. There's a lot of confusion out there. What does he say? The sheer amount of confusion, heartbreak, and fear that I have witnessed at the village church in regard to romantic relationships and sex provides my primary motivation for writing this book. So there's a bunch of books out there, and they all kind of suck, seems to be what he's saying, or none of them really answer the questions people are asking. And in his church, people don't know how to date, they don't know how to be married, they don't really know how to have a relationship, and so in order to quell that, I guess, he decided he wanted to write this book. I'll also say this, I don't know if you guys know this was actually a sermon series of his that he did, I believe it was last year. So he, if I understand it, the way like John Piper does this a lot, where he'll do a sermon series and then he'll like write a book about it. And Matt Chandler seems to be starting to follow that same plan. That's how he's pumping out so many books. He just turns his sermons into books. And I haven't listened to the sermon series, but I'm guessing he breaks it up almost exactly like he breaks up the book, like 1 chapter a week. Here's one thing I thought was interesting about the introduction as well. Wait. Oh.
It's funny how we.
Oh, never mind. That was in the attractions. Oh, that was another thing. He talks about in the introduction why marriage is broken. Why does he say our marriages are broken?
He basically boils it down to the fact that divorce is an option for a lot of people.
Yeah.
They're not marrying with the intent to stay married.
That's true. There he is. Calvinist Batman has joined. Well.
Too funny.
The Dark Knight. I almost thought about making an Armenian Joker page once when I first found out about you. Has anyone done that?
I need to.
Done what?
Create an Armenian Joker page?
No.
I think that would cause too much fallout if anyone ever found it was me, though. I guess everyone would have found out. Now I'm saying it on the record.
Yeah.
It's going to go on. So I am not Armenian Joker if he shows up. No. So yeah, so divorce is an option. Okay, so just joined us. We talked. We're going through the intro first, real quick. Talked about why he wrote the book. Right? He wrote it because people don't know how to date, don't know how to be married, don't know how to do relationships. So he kind of wrote this book about that. And then in the intro, he goes pretty in depth into how marriage is broken. And the sugar said,
for a few moments, join a.
okay, sorry. Talking to the Mrs. Batman. Batwoman? No.
That girl.
Anyway, bad girl. Okay. So he talks about why marriage is broken, and one of the big reasons is divorce is an option, right? We don't take it we don't take marriage seriously. The other reason, probably the main reason he really goes into is that the fall, that there's sin, right? Like marriage is broken because everything is broken. So God makes everything good, and now it's broken. That's basically the intro. I don't know. Does anyone have anything else they wanted to mention in the intro? I wanted to kind of power through it a little bit because the other two sections there's a lot more.
Well, that's probably the part that we read. I guess we didn't really read too much of the first. So we read I guess half of the first chapter, but he talks about that us having our male parts and female parts. That's all God's design. Our desires are God's design. All these things, all these feelings and stuff that we have will make that are designed for our spouse were by God's design. So it's not unnatural to have feelings, and all the body parts and all these things are part of what God had for us. So it's not, we shouldn't, I don't know what the word how he said it, but basically like it's not an unknown or something we should kind of shy away from before. We should.
He wasn't surprised, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I liked that a lot. Where he was like, penis didn't surprise God, right? Like, that's not something that God was like, what?
How did that get here?
Yeah. Or you're doing what?
Yeah.
Like he's like, go out, multiply.
Yeah.
Fill up the earth. I made this awesome place. I want lots of people in it. Right. Go do the thing that causes that to happen. Like one of the good things he tells.
Thing.
Yeah.
Do that thing.
That thing. No, not the other thing. That.
Yeah. Yes. And he also did. I didn't write this down, but I just saw one of my notes. He also talks about singles, right? Like singles longing to be in a marriage, to be in a relationship. And that's a good thing.
Sure.
How that happens before the fall. So before there is sin, man is lonely. So as a single, when you're lonely, that is totally natural. That is totally part of the world. When God said it is good, loneliness existed. So I think that's something important to remember, because I think a lot of times singles get told, like, well, just wait, get over it, just be single. And it's like, well, loneliness isn't necessarily sinful,
Right.
And then, of course, his goal is to be gospel-centered. He wants everything in the book he writes to be point back to the gospel. So, and that's the intro. So, chapter 1, attraction. What do you guys think about chapter 1? I think everyone's read most of it.
It's pretty basic. I mean, speaking from my wife and I standpoint, we've been married for 12 years. A lot of the first part of chapter 1 is pretty basic, where she may be hot, but that's not all there is to it. So,
yeah.
It's like I tell my teenage son, he talks about girls, he's like, well, she's hot, and I'm like, so is hell. So.
I don't think I've ever heard that.
I didn't come up with it. It was actually a Mark Driscoll quote, so.
No, it's allowed.
But it worked, so.
No, it's good. Yeah, so that probably is the main thrust, right? Like, of the chapter, he talks about. But I do like that before he goes into that, he does talk about how it's okay to look at someone and be like, oh, that is an attractive person. I would like to date them. Right? Like, again, this part is clearly for singles, not for married folks. But I like when he talks about the day of epiphany, where a kid is like, oh,
yeah,
that person's attractive now. I don't know. Should I ask? Should I ask about your days of epiphany? When you guys had who your first quote unquote love was?
I don't
I
think
will
I
say
remember
that as
mine.
a middle school teacher, I think his 9th grade thing might be a little late because I have some 6th graders who I'm pretty sure have had that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was surprised by that too. Yeah, between 5th and 9th grade, I don't know. I don't know of a 9th grader who for the first time was like, oh, they're attractive. Like normally it seems you started sooner than that.
Yeah.
I grew up a pretty clueless kid, so I can see 9th grade.
Be like, oh, girls are cool now. Nice. I also like I love that he talked about how the Bible at points promotes physical attraction, or at least shows physical attraction ultimately being a good thing, right? Like he talks about in the Song of Solomon where she looks at him and she's like, oh, I like what I see, and he kind of looks at her and he's like, yeah, you're really beautiful. And I liked Adam and Eve. That like. I'm sure, I don't know, I've heard this story a lot, but I like it every time, where the first thing Adam does when he sees Eve is he sings her a song. Like, I don't know, like, this is a depraved version of it, but like, I was listening to a podcast where this guy was kind of talking about how he hits on women. It was part of another story, but he talks about how he's kind of hitting on women, and he was like, ooh, baby, how you doing? And I was like, man, he sounds like he's singing. And for some reason, it reminded me of that moment in Adam and Eve where Adam was like, oh, baby.
Or the old preacher joke, when Adam woke up, the first thing he did was say, whoa, man. And that's how we got one.
Yeah. Yeah. I also like Jacob and Rachel. I think the first thing Jacob does when he sees Rachel is like, oh, I need to marry her. Like, she's really attractive. That's what I did too with my Rachel. Yeah. So, I guess my question would be, what do you guys think about attraction? Like, that's one thing that I think kind of gets downplayed in the church. Do you guys think that we as Christians generally promote attraction? Do you think we kind of tell people like, don't be attracted? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think that we kind of make it into a secondary thing that we're like, it's not the most important thing, that it's beyond the skin that is what's important, and that's true, but there does have to be that initial physical attraction most of the time as well.
Yeah. Do you think we could, I mean, almost everyone here is married. Not everyone. What do you think we as married folks should tell single people about that? Because like my tendency is to want to be like, hey dude, or hey gal, like that guy, maybe you might like him, but maybe he's not the best guy for you. But I don't often tell people like, hey, you should pursue someone that you think is super attractive, right? Like, I don't feel like I had to tell people that, but I think not telling people
Well,
that.
it's kind of basic human instinct at that point. Hey, you're attracted to that person. We all understand. Go for it. What we don't understand is put on the brakes. Maybe not so hard. Get to know them before, the ring comes out.
Yeah.
One of the things that I noted about this section, I agree it was like really basic, but when I was thinking about it, obviously it seems like it's a little bit more geared towards singles, but because of how much brokenness there is around all aspects of sex and marriage, that even down to attraction, if there's sexual sins or other issues, there can be a lot of shame in feeling attraction towards someone, maybe not necessarily knowing what to do with that as a single person. I see it could be really beneficial to have kind of a guideline for like, it's okay that there's attraction, in fact, that honors God, and but this is kind of how you channel that, and this is how you glorify God with that. So I thought that was kind of my summary.
Okay. Well, Amanda kind of blew up the pub, and we talked a little bit about in the Rugged Marriage about women being attracted to men, right? Like I didn't realize it until that post, but I don't know if I've ever really had a conversation about the fact that women are attracted to men, if that makes sense. Like I always understood it intellectually, but for some reason, like this is I feel like an idiot, but
like the concept.
I don't know. Do you think
into
do you think women are encouraged to be attracted to men in the same way, in a way that men are encouraged to be attracted to women, or do you think women are kind of told not to worry about that part?
There's a long-standing history of women being told to suppress that, but I think more so in the past maybe 5-10 years, we are being encouraged now. You know, women are being told it's okay if you want to, and I think that he even talks about it in chapter 2. I don't want to skip ahead, but you know, about women being encouraged to go and hook up, or you know, you're no different than a man. Just go ahead and follow those instincts or follow that attraction, and you're starting to see a lot of women being more honest about that aspect. So that could be why up until recently men sort of had no idea, because we didn't really talk about it. I find men attractive, and I think that that is not inherently sinful. Otherwise I wouldn't have been attracted to my husband, and we wouldn't have seen it in Genesis pre-fall, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I don't think we should like obviously he fights a lot against the hookup culture in this first chapter. He talks a lot about it, and obviously we shouldn't be encouraging people to just like have cheap relationships. But I think it's okay to tell people, especially women, that it's okay to be attracted to the person you're dating. Like, I remember when I was younger, there was a girl I wasn't attracted to, but not at all. But she was like kind of a good match for me, and so everyone kind of told me I needed to date her, and I was like, but I'm just not attracted to her at all. And I actually got a lot of people for it, and I think it's okay to say, like men and women, I'm not attracted to this person, so I don't want to pursue them. But I don't know. I think women more than men get told, just kind of suck it up. There's other qualities. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into something. Hopefully the women can chime in on that. No. Okay. Maybe I'm still wrong place.
I mean, I'm attracted to my husband, so I don't know. I don't think I ever would have dated someone if I wasn't attracted to them. But I mean, I can see why like a hyper spiritual or people trying to give advice would say something like that. But I think we're kind of not being very practical with that advice.
Yeah.
It's good to know that God encourages us to be attracted. He made us to be attracted to the opposite sex, and knowing that that's something that God intended us to have, and it just to have its proper place. It's refreshing to know that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So good. So his thoughts about there's physical attractiveness, and then he talks about attraction being more than just physical. It's the look, the physical look, and then there's a depth to it, something that goes further. I thought his points were interesting. He says, one, do other people who love you speak highly of that person? And then I thought that was interesting. I thought when he talks about when they're not beautiful anymore, when they're not young and attractive anymore, what will they have left? I thought that was an interesting point. And then I like their point on do they submit to authority a lot. Thought maybe we could take a few minutes to talk about those a little bit. So one of the things I think I did wrong when dating Rachel is early on, I didn't really bring her into a lot of my friendships. That kind of came a little bit later, where I would bring her in a little bit, but a lot of times, like, when I was hanging out with the guys, I hung out with the guys and didn't bring Rachel. I think I've learned my lesson. And they were very encouraging to my marriage and my relationship, but looking back on it, I think, they had input and they liked her and they approved, but I also didn't really give them probably enough time with her to have a good opinion. So one of the points he kind of makes is that you should let people who love you help decide whether or not you should pursue this person. Was that something that happened for you guys? Did you have people in your lives who were encouraging you to marry your spouse? And for the singles, do you have people in your life who you can go to with those things, who will encourage you or kind of shut it down or something if they think they're not a good person?
I definitely had people in my life telling me that I need to stay away from Chad from the very beginning. But here's the thing, I was an unbeliever when I met Chad, and all of my friends very much reflected that. So I think that in hindsight, that was like the biggest indicator that I should have been going towards that type of relationship, is because it was the most healthiest relationship I'd ever been in.
Mm-hmm.
So I had sort of the opposite example from the book, but I'm glad that I read it because I never would have thought about that otherwise. And I don't know, I'm raising kids, so it's nice to know these things.
Yeah, and they do have godly people in their lives. They have you guys to support them.
Yeah.
What about you, Kyle? Were people on board with your marriage?
Yeah, from my side, people couldn't stop telling me how great my wife is, and that I definitely needed to marry her. On the other side, it wasn't exactly the same. She definitely had people that were a little worried about our relationship, especially some of her family and stuff like that, that they felt that I was controlling, perhaps. But it's really funny that now, 8 years into our marriage, those same people that had those issues have apologized to me, have told me that, they couldn't be happier for us and how great I was, and things like that. So it's really interesting how kind of first impressions kind of grow outside of like committed relationships and just friendships and family relationships and stuff, as well as like a romantic relationship.
Yeah, that's awesome. How about you guys? Sorry, you can't see how I'm pointing out. I mean, you can't see how I'm.
That one.
I knew what you meant.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody, well, all the people that mattered were supportive. But we had
it's good distinction.
We had a 2-month engagement, but we had dated a year and a half before that, and I mean, I was 29, and you were 30 when we got married. 31. So I mean, we were already. It wasn't like we were like 19-year-olds getting married or anything, And I mean, it seemed like everybody was pretty supportive, and I kind of had. I didn't get the controlling thing, but I got a lot of, oh, she's an amazing woman. It's glad that, you better be glad you got her, and you better take care of her or else. I got a lot of that stuff, so, it was cool. And, I mean, everybody, I mean, it was, I know it was meant well. People just didn't know me from, like, the other teachers that she taught with and things like that. But I mean, usually most people I met, I mean, they knew where I stood, and, I mean, there really wasn't big issues. But I don't know what she heard. I don't know if she heard some don't do it or.
Well, it's a long story, but I mean, we're not going to go into all the details before we got married, but we had gone through some pretty rocky steps before we got married, so I did have some family members that, were just like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Are you sure y'all want to do it so fast? And, I was sure at that point. I knew that I felt like God had put us together, and that was his plan for us. So had to kind of look over that part. I mean, getting married in 2 months is, people want to try to encourage you to not do that, but we did it, and everything worked out great. And as time goes on, people see that.
See the fruit.
Yeah, see the fruit of it. So.
That's awesome. So you planned the whole wedding in 2 months?
Yes.
Wow.
That's awesome.
5 stars.
Yeah, I'm a very indecisive person, so it actually helped me a lot because I was forced to make these huge decisions, and I couldn't second guess myself. So it really actually helped a lot for me.
Yeah, she has a set of twins that are friends of hers that kind of did the wedding planning. So they one's a caterer, and the other one, I guess, normally plans weddings, right? And they kind of just, they were like little busy bees the whole time, and they'd say, "Do you want this? Yes. Do you want this? No." It was a lot of.
We're just listening to the audio.
Yeah, so it was cool, and I just kind of was like, "Whatever you want, babe." So it was good.
Great. Welcome back, congrats.
So I'm over here and I'm giggling because how you said we weren't a couple of 19-year-olds. My husband was 19 when we got married, and all of his friends were basically like, "What are you doing? Like, what are you doing?" And we got married about a month before our 1-year dating anniversary, and planned the wedding in about 3 weeks.
Oh my God.
Wow, good job.
It was sort of
Well,
like,
you were-
let's just get it done, and we got it done. Yeah.
Well, you were saved while you two were dating, right?
Yeah. And that was part of it. So we got engaged on the Friday. I was saved on the Sunday. And on the Sunday, it was like, we got to get this done. And we got it done.
I think the thing was part of the hang-up for some of my family too. Is I was 21 and she was 19 when we got engaged, and then we had a 4-month engagement. She turned 20 right before we got married, and I turned 22 right before we got married. So part of that was the youngness as well.
Well, it's scary because like I feel it. Like I want people to be set, right? Like whenever I talk to someone about like who they're dating someone and they're like, "Oh, we're engaged," and it's like, especially when it's quick, my first thought is like, "Ooh, are there going to be problems later because of that?" Partly because marriage is such a poster fell in the background. It distracted me. Sorry.
Man, you really got.
Yeah, we want everything. We want everything to be perfect. We want everything to be perfect, right? But it's not. It can't be. God perfects through marriage in part, and so I don't know. I think it's funny because I have this dual thing inside of me. I don't know if anyone else has this. Where on the one hand, I see short relationships, and like one of my first instincts is like, "Ooh, is that a bad thing?" But it's like, I think that's more just because that's been hammered into me my whole life. Like, oh, you need to date someone for like 5 years before you even consider marrying them, and then have like a 6-year
live with
engagement.
them and
Yes.
yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, Rachel and I got engaged after 9 months, and then we had a 6-month engagement, and
That was way too long.
that was too long. I don't know. I still think I would. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll talk to that another time. But
I have friends that were engaged for like 3 years, and I was like, "What? Like, why would you do that to yourselves?"
Yeah. I don't understand that, especially people who are Christian. Like, I understand, I guess, why unbelievers have long engagements, because they're like, "What's the difference? I'm engaged, I'm married. What's the difference?" But for believers, it's like, no, there's a big difference.
Yeah.
How about you, Trevor? Do you have people in your life who love you, who will...
The single guy on the call. Yeah, I have a large family that will hunt me down if I'm doing something wrong. And I'm not kidding. I've never been able to get anything past my brother, so he is very much there for me. And everything else, I like to think I'm okay at being discreet. Everybody I know has told me otherwise. So,
awesome.
I've got a support group, basically.
Good. Well, awesome. Oh man, time is flying. Well, do we want to dive into attraction some more? Talk about the different pieces of attraction, or do we want to dive into chapter 2 and some dating?
I say chapter 2, even though I haven't read chapter 2.
That's right. That's right. I will say this: the first 2 chapters are definitely for single people. Like, I was kind of reading it, and I was a little bored at parts, and I was like, well, that's because I'm not, like, like, I don't need to worry about being attracted to someone because I already am. And I don't need to worry about dating someone because, like, we already date. Like, we're married. Like, it's a different type of dating. So, but I do think it's very helpful for singles especially. Sorry, I gotta get there. Oh.
I thought it's a pretty decent intro for, like, premarital stuff, is what I was really thinking when I read the first part.
Yeah. Rachel had a good comment when we were talking about it the other day. She made the point that it sounds a lot like he's sitting down with someone and having a conversation with them. It's very conversational in tone. So, where a lot of marriage books are either very, it's like you're in a room with a counselor and the counselor's just telling you everything, or they maybe dive deeper into the text than maybe this one goes. He's very conversational. He's very, hey, I'm sitting down with you and we're having a conversation, talking about what is attraction, premarital counseling. What is attraction? What is dating? What does your stuff look like? Are you ready for this? I think you're right. I think it's a fantastic, probably going to be a fantastic resource for that. We'll see. We've got a lot of book left. So chapter 2 is about dating. I do have a question for you. For those who did anyone? Okay, thumbs up if you actually read chapter 2. Oh no.
There's not a whole lot of thumbs up there.
I know.
Do we say an attraction?
Yeah. So, okay, well, we'll start. There's a lot of stuff in there that we can just talk about like we're doing here. I will say this. One comment I had about the dating chapter especially is it felt to me, and Rachel, she's the only other time I saw, so it felt to me like he was really pushing his ideas of dating into the text. Like, instead of reading the Song of Solomon and go, oh, this is how you date, and this is how you date, and this is how you date, it was more like he had wisdom from an overarching view of the entirety of Scripture, and then from that he pushes kind of the overall biblical idea into his description of dating. I don't know, do you think, and he kind of uses bits of the Song of Solomon to kind of
finds the Song of Solomon that agree with his ideas about dating.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought that it was, I don't know, as I was reading, it was, I really lost my train of thought there. I'm so sorry.
You feel like he did a good job of pulling into the Song of Solomon, maybe?
Yeah, from what I gathered, it seemed like he did a decent job of looking at the text and saying, like, from this we can, pull out this idea. And I'm not at all well acquainted with the Christian idea of dating. I've never dated as a Christian, so I have no experience to back that up.
Mm-hmm. Did you find that this gave you a lot of insight into some really good things that you would recommend like that you wish you had known or had thought about?
Totally. So I feel after having read that chapter, like in my mind, I'm like, I know a couple people who I want to give this book to, because I thought that it was really, like, he has some wise things to say that we definitely could have applied to our relationship pre-marriage. So from there, I think that it could definitely be helpful for someone who is either entering into a relationship, is not in a relationship, and might be one day.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't want to hog the conversation. If anyone else has anything to add.
I think you're the one besides us who's read
I
chapter
have to
2.
say, it's kind of hard to interject without having read it, so.
No, I would agree with you. I think it's full of wisdom. I think it's really good, and I don't think he says anything that goes ultimately against the Bible or against anything that comes up in the Song of Songs.
Only thing I really found interesting was he keeps going back to Song of Solomon, but wasn't Solomon married when he wrote this book already the first time? He had at least one wife at this point. And I just found that interesting.
I don't know, actually.
He's talking about dating when the guy has a wife. I mean, I know back then it wasn't considered such a faux pas as it is today, but it's like you would think that because he had practice before, if you will, that maybe that could reason some of Song of Solomon versus, like, I don't know, Ruth versus Boaz.
Yeah, I think some people think this was his first marriage, like before he went crazy. 300 wives and 700 concubines. No, thank you.
We can barely keep our payments on one.
But yeah, and that's a good point. And I'm wondering if he's going to bring this up at some point, just kind of Solomon's problem, because I mean, Solomon did not have a good view, God-honoring view of sex and relationships and marriage. Like, he didn't. There's no way he was a good husband. There's no way he was a good father, right? Like, I mean, look, after him, the entire country kind of collapses and splits, and there's a lot of issues. So he was a good leader while he was alive, but he didn't bring anyone up to lead after him. Solomon had a lot of issues. But on the flip side of that, he wrote 3 books of the Bible.
Well, right. You know, I mean, A+ dater, not so great at everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. A+ dater. I like that.
I think it's a good warning, because Solomon definitely got to a point where he was like, I'm going to try to satisfy my flesh in every way that I desire. And so part of that was having every single, woman he'd ever imagined in his head right there in front of him, and so he definitely got to a point where he just fed his flesh with everything that he could get his hands on because he had power. And so I think there's a good warning to see and contrast that picture of like this beautiful relationship that he had with his first wife, where he desires her and only her in a way that honors God, and then to see that contrasted with, here I have 300 wives, and there's no way that he can love any of them purely. So I think that it's a good thing that the scriptures show us both of those things, because it is a good warning that our hearts ultimately desire our own destruction, and we can see where it led him and how it destroyed him ultimately. So I think that's good that that's there.
Yeah. So dating. All right. So here's what he recommends for dating, and this one is funny but also sad. His first point was, he says, in dating, you have to have reciprocity. And what that means is both parties have to like each other. I don't know if any of you guys were ever in a relationship where you really liked someone and they clearly didn't like you back, but you kind of kept pursuing it. Maybe you guys did what I did when I was a young fool, and I would like be friends with girls who I knew didn't like me, but I liked them, and I would try to like kind them into liking me. Maybe if I'm like super nice to them, and then God eventually saved me from it. But that's one thing he talks about a lot. There must be reciprocity. I like the idea that he says this. He actually says this in the book. It is never okay to stalk a person who doesn't feel the same way you do about the relationship. I don't know. Do you know anyone who's like that?
I hope not.
So I was I would say there were many times that I was stalked by guys who were like, "Oh, I really like you. We should get married." And I go to Bible college, and I'd be like, "No, I'm not attracted to you, and I think you're really immature." And like I could just like list off like things like right off the bat, and they would take no for an answer, and so they'd like keep pestering me, and I'd finally have to be like really mean and like bring in like outside like intervention where I'd have to be like, who's somebody who's really important in your life, and then like bring that person in and be like, don't talk to me anymore, like. And so it was interesting to see that like that in their sense of like desperation, they would like not respect that boundary. So I've seen it a lot, but they were crazy.
I think that I don't know if it's like our culture or like, you know, sometimes we think that hopeless, like wanting to love something or have something that you can't have, you know, is kind of attractive to us in some way, like, and I guess we feel like you know, that hopeless, the hopeless romantic or the forbidden fruit or whatever. And I think there's such a contentment and simplicity when you actually do find the right person. Like I remember thinking like, this feels so normal and natural, and like we're not arguing and we're not in conflict all the time. You know, I'm not chasing him or he's not chasing me necessarily. Like there's just a settling and like a contentment that comes with finding the right person that I never knew before Laramie. And I was in love with my pastor's son for like 10 years. And he was like a bad guy, you know, and was dating all these other people. And that what I thought was love for him, you know, turned into this really unhealthy thing. And I don't know, it wasn't real love, but to me I thought it was, because, you know, I was just, I don't know, so enthralled with him, I guess. But he never reciprocated it, really. So, and when he did, it was a little bit too late. And it was not a good situation at all. But, so yeah, I think there is some of that in our society of like trying to go after something that you can't have, you know. I don't know if that's the same with you, kind of.
She actually blew me off the first time we met, and tried to introduce me to her cousin.
The old cousin routine.
That's why it's called the rugged marriage. You got to fight for it.
Yeah, it was Mount Everest time to climb. But I ended up getting in another relationship. Thankfully, I didn't date her cousin, because that would have been weird. But yeah, we ended up. I mean, the next relationship I was in was for about a year, and it didn't work out. And I was sitting there thinking, like, what's the common occurrence in every relationship I've been in that hasn't worked out? It's been me, you know. So, and I decided to give her I sent her a text, and I was like, "Hey, my name's Laramie. I don't know if you remember me or you still have my number or not, but you know, I'm just kind of looking for some insight, because obviously I'm dating incorrectly, you know, and you're someone that turned me down. So I need to know, you know, what a woman like you would want, because obviously these other ones that I found are not the right ones." And so it kind of started off as me in the friend zone at first, and I successfully got out of the friend zone, obviously.
Well played.
But yeah, it was a
similar experience.
It was like straight up platonic, and then I guess when she showed interest, it was like, oh, okay, I'm getting smiley face in these text messages now. So.
The old, what would you want? hypothetically true. What was your experience like, Kai? You said you had something similar?
Yeah, my wife, she was not interested at all either at the beginning. And she later admitted to me that she was just in denial that I was even interested in her, and she swore that I was interested in her friend and things like that. It's really funny that how people will convince themselves of something. But luckily, I didn't give up either.
Well, he does mention that in chapter 2. He talks in the reciprocity chapter. He makes the point. He's like, don't stalk someone. Like, if they're giving you a hard no, respect it. But he also talks about how it's okay to pursue someone and to let those feelings grow and that relationship grow. Because again, out of the first chapter, attraction is more than just how someone looks or that initial spark, right? Attraction it has to do with a person's character as well as their attraction is physical attractiveness, but also an attractive character. So I like that. I like both your stories that they're good versions of it. Where reciprocity has to be developed a little bit.
Well, yeah, because there's definitely bad versions as well. I think there's a lot of people who get trapped in a thrill of the chase kind of situation, and they just like that, trying to win, basically, when they get turned down that first time, and that's where you get into that kind of dangerous zone.
Yeah, and it's destructive.
Yeah.
It's not. And the second point he talks about for dating is, okay, so you both got to like each other, but then in addition to that, he says that your relationship should be life-giving. And what he means by that is you actually grow the other person. You seek to encourage them and help them be stronger, and you don't use insecurity to your advantage, right? Like, we see this all the time where people take advantage of other people. But in the Song of Songs, that was my phone. In the Song of Songs, she talks about how she doesn't think she's attractive. She works outside all day, so she's got like a tan. And that's ugly, because everyone works outside in that day and age. So what's beautiful is really pale skin, because you don't have to work outside. And she's like, why would he even like me? I'm tan. And then his response is, he goes, I compare you, my love, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariots. Your cheeks are lovely with ornaments, your neck the string of jewels. And what he's saying is, like, I look at you like the most beautiful horse this guy's got. Like, you stand. I mean, that's not a very nice way to. But
don't try that at home.
Yeah.
Don't write that one down. But it's like you are the most beautiful jewel I've ever seen. You are stunning. You stand out among the rest. Like, when and then encourages her, and she's like, she talks about it, how it lifts her up and it encourages her. This is one of the reasons, if you listen to the podcast, I like to tell guys, like, when their wives are struggling with sin, to say, I love you even when. Like, something Rachel and I will do, Rachel will say, I don't know why you love me, I'm a sinner. And my response is, I love you even when you're a sinner. I love you because you're a sinner. Right? Like, my goal is to encourage her in that and to give her life.
In spite.
Yeah, exactly. Regardless. I remember I knew this girl, and she was in this relationship where the dude actually, like, was so abusive. He just took advantage of her money. He cussed her out all the time. He actually hit her once. And I remember sitting down with her and being like, why would you still date this guy? And she's like, well, I could see what he could be. And I was like, okay, but do you think, okay, he could be the greatest guy ever, but do you think that this is a relationship that actually, like, you should be in? Like, if your other friend was in this relationship, would you tell them to stay in it? And she kind of looked at me real hard for a moment, like she was thinking about it, and then she said, well, I guess I just see what he could be. She just repeated that for like an hour. And I was like, okay, well, you don't care what I have to say. I don't know. I don't want to throw any spouses under the bus. Do you feel like this is life-giving? Do you think that the relationships you see most of the time, like the people are looking to be life-giving, they are encouraging one another? Do you think that's something we in the church and outside of the church that we support and we cherish and we encourage? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yes. Well, she's life-giving for me, for sure. The reason I say that is because the times that she's not, they stand out. So if she was death giving all the time, then it would be the opposite. It would stand out the times that she was life giving, but it's the opposite. So I mean, words mean a lot to me, and she's very encouraging. So for me, it's evident to me that she's very life giving, because the times that she's not, I'm like, oh, that stung. That hit deep.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's good.
Awesome. One thing I know, Chad did for you, Amanda, once was when you guys were at that Paul Tripp conference, he took the baby for a while. I remember that one.
When he took the baby out?
Yeah, so you didn't have to? I was like,
yeah.
Oh, Chad.
Yeah, we took turns on that one. So it would be like an hour-long kind of talk, and then there would be like a 20-minute break, and what we ended up doing was taking turns, and that was helpful. Like, there was a TV out in the hallway where you could listen to things, but it's not the same, and there's people around, and they were talking, and so it's hard to pay attention, and of course you've got a baby, so yeah. So that I really appreciated that, is because we were there, mostly the topic was for me, so I was a little bit, I think he could tell that I was bummed that I had to take it was literally like before the very first session, I had to take the baby out. 5 seconds later, Paul Tripp got on stage, and I'm like, come on, like, I'm going to miss the whole thing. So he stepped in, and he started taking him out instead. So that was pretty great.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many relationships I've seen where the husband wouldn't even consider that. And I've actually I know couples who, if the wife asked the husband to do that, he would be like, nope, it's your job, and that's disgusting to me. And that was one thing that really encouraged me, seeing the way the two of you shared that responsibility and encouraged one another in that, and we're both able to participate because of it. I was really encouraged by that.
Yeah,
I definitely see in Alex, like, one of the things that's really stood out to me is kind of how he represents Christ as a mediator. There's just so many things where he's kind of a buffer for a lot of things for me, where, like, there's a lot of things that can affect me emotionally, and they, like, really, really drag me down. Like, for example, somebody decided to write me a letter like a couple weeks ago, and I knew it was going to be really mean, and so I kind of let him know, like, okay, this is coming, and he wouldn't let me open it, and so, like, he read it, and he said, okay, I'll deal with responding to this, and, like, so even in that, like, he was protecting me and kind of acting as a mediator to something that could have, like, really, like, hurt me and kind of caused me to really struggle. And so, for me, I see those kinds of things, like, how he's life-giving, and we've, continued to kind of grow in those things as our marriage gets stronger and as Christ does more work in us. But it's really encouraging to see that aspect where I can be like, oh yes, and that's a reminder of, like, how Christ works in my life and how he intercedes for me, and that's a really big encouragement to me. So, thank you.
Well, how about you, James? I know you have to mute the mic.
Well, no. I mute my mic because I got kids running around and I don't want it flipping back and forth and stuff, so I just mute it. And so, like, I got a kid in here right now, but I'm on my phone because the computer overheated, so.
Oh, no.
So that's why I'm not running my video, because my phone will throw a hissy fit.
Okay. Oh, also, just so everyone's aware, it is 8 o'clock. I'm okay with us going a little later, or 9 o'clock on the East Coast. Sorry. So if anyone needs to leave, fine. Figure we only have a little bit left. But I'm really enjoying the conversation. I'd like to keep talking to anyone who's open to it.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to head out because I'm going to turn into a pumpkin soon because I got an early morning wake up, so.
Thanks so much for joining us, James.
No problem. Hey, Catherine, you want to say bye?
Bye.
Bye, Catherine. So Kyle, do you want to talk a little about how your relationship is life-giving?
Sure. I would say, just thinking about it for me, it's really funny because the most life-giving thing that comes out of our relationship is just that we're very like opposite people, like very opposite in as far as our personalities are concerned. And so in a lot of ways, like, just her being herself is a great example to me of some of the things I need to work on in myself. For instance, I'm extremely blunt and direct, and I don't really care about people's feelings a lot of the times when I'm talking to them. And she really cares. She puts people ahead of herself at all times, and so a lot of times she just models those kind of things for me in situations where I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I could do a little bit better job of thinking about how this person's going to react to what I'm telling them. And so it's a lot of that kind of things where her strengths are my weaknesses, and so I get to grow from that and vice versa.
That's awesome. That's really nice. I would be interested, Trevor, for your opinion on this. Do you find that most, as a single person, do you see most relationships as life-giving, or do you see couples in general not really encouraging one another in that way?
This is a very multi-layered question. I see the relationships that I wish to emulate as life-giving. You can tell when one of the people isn't in the room. Right now, my parents, they're still very much married, but my father lives 4 hours south of us doing a job, and my mother lives in the same city as me. And you can tell that they are not together. They are in mind and in soul, but they are not in body. But when they're together, whenever he comes up for a weekend or whatever, and they're together in all aspects, you can tell it. They are brighter. They are more full of life, really. So, in every other relationship I've ever wanted to emulate, it's like that. I mean, it really is. If one person isn't there, they are not there. So. So yes.
That was beautiful. These are great.
I'm glad that was recorded.
Yeah, this whole thing has been awesome. One of the other things he talked about in dating, and kind of where he ends the second chapter, is what he calls the promise of a future. And he talks about dating as something that both parties like each other, where it's life-giving, they encourage each other. He has a few other points. It's safe, there's purity, they think about each other. But then he ends with this idea of that there is the promise of a future. And he talks, when he quotes it from the Song of Solomon, one of the things he points out is that the woman in the Song of Solomon has this growing comfort around him. She talks about how, she says, as an apple tree among the trees of the forest, so is my beloved among the young men. With great delight I sat in his shadow, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. And so they're hanging out, and they're together, and she feels safe around him, and she feels close to him, but also, and it's growing, and as they grow, he makes it more and more apparent to her that this is something that I want to go all the way. I want to get married to you. I want to be in a relationship with you. Her family is encouraging it. So this idea of a promise of the future is something that I don't think really exists in dating right now. Most of us who are married have been married for at least 4 or 5 years, or more. But I'm seeing this too in a lot of my friends, where they're all like, people don't date; they hang out, or they're in groups together, and it's like there's this long confusion where the people are like, is he my boyfriend? Is she my girlfriend? What are we? And no one wants to talk about it. I know with Rachel and I, there was that promise of the future from really very early on.
I made it clear what I wanted.
Me too. And it sounds like in your relationships as well, from the stories you're telling me, that similar. Like you didn't beat around the bush. It wasn't like, well, we're kind of dating and we're holding hands, but sometimes we're not. Or maybe I'm dating other people. It was, I'm dating you and only you, and we're together, and I want to see where this goes, if this is something that God wants us to commit to forever. How do you encourage people how do you encourage them to that? Because it's scary looking to date someone with the intention of marrying them, because a lot of people aren't looking for that. So as Christians, how do you encourage people to date someone with that intention?
Good question.
I think he addressed it. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Larry.
No, ladies first.
Okay. I was going to say I have one of the students that we taught in the youth group at the previous church we were at. Her and I keep up really regularly, and she's kind of one of the only college-age kids who hasn't left town to go to school. And so she's going to a local college, and so one of the things that we've discussed a lot is, like, you know, when she has crushes or guys that she likes, and, you know, she's had a lot of questions about dating and that kind of thing. And so when she talks to me about dating and about attraction and those kinds of things, I start talking to her about marriage. And I start trying to paint a picture of what marriage looks like from a biblical perspective, and then I just kind of ask her questions around that, like, like, do you feel like you're at a place where you can, spiritually support this person? Are you praying for them every day? Are you, are you able to have a discussion around the scripture? Like, just a lot of little things like that to try to help her think more biblically about dating and attraction, and not just stay at, well, I just need a boyfriend or I just need somebody in my life. So that's been really interesting. That's been challenging for me because it's caused me to kind of like really think about that a lot more. So anyway.
Your turn, Larry.
Well, I guess two things. I guess it's not so much dating, the first thing I was going to say. I just kind of thought of it as you were talking, but I have some friends that, we have some friends that they've been married 6 months, I guess, and they're kind of in and this is me kind of going down a rabbit trail, but they're so used to everybody saying, oh, you date, and then you get married, and then you wait years before you have kids, right? You know, and get all your fun out of the way, and, go and travel and do all these things, then you can have kids, right? And, he's got his career job, they bought a house. Like, I was like, dude, if I had met Devin, when I was when I was their age, they're like 25, and I was like, if I had met Devin when I was that age, knowing what I know now, we would have started having kids back then, but it's just the stigma that's portrayed, in the world. It's like you have to do all these things before. So I guess, and I tell them about the beauty in family and what a child does for you, so I just kind of just paint this picture that I see that God has shown us through His Word for family, and so I guess the same kind of would apply to someone who's, I guess, looking to date or that's single. I would want to show them I guess the beauty that's in marriage, and that God's designed us, to have these relationships, and the things that I'm able to share with Devin, and the life we get to have together and joke and be intimate, and not just physically but emotionally and spiritually, and all these things, just all the benefits that come from marriage. Like, why wouldn't you want that? And because you want that, this is like this is going to be like one of your crowning achievements in life is finding a wife or a husband you're going to want to not just take dating lightly. You want to be serious and intentional with it. Just like if you were buying a house or buying a car or choosing a cell phone, like people tend to take time, when they're making these choices, but they'll just date anybody and with the just like taking a shot in the dark. I'll date this person for a few weeks. If it doesn't work out, I'll move on. But it's like this is, I don't know, it's one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make in life is who you're gonna marry. So the leading up to that should be very intentional. But that's my little.
That's great. That's
I
great.
have something to add, if I can, before we move on.
Yeah.
What struck me about that is I think it's important how she is encouraged that he's talking about the long run and making her feel safe and secure in their relationship before marriage, but like that doesn't stop on the wedding day. I know that as a woman, I'm like, okay, I've married you now. I still need that security. I still need that promise. And more so now that we've made this commitment, now that we've made this covenant, and maybe I'm just oversensitive, but I know in the beginning there was a lot of me saying, like, are you still as hopeful in this relationship? And I think it just took a little bit for Chad to understand that, like, maybe I'm wording this really weirdly, but
No, you're doing great.
just continuing to encourage each other, like, I still love you, I'm still choosing to love you. He's really good at this now. He'll say, I understand that you're upset with me, I understand that, or even I'm upset with you, but I promise you that I'm in this for forever, and nothing's going to change that, and no matter how upset at each other we get, like, I've made this promise to you, and I'm not going to break that promise. So, like, let's work this out. Maybe take some time, but we are going to work this out because I promised you that, and that hasn't changed.
That's awesome. That's really good. Yeah, there's a book that talks about that called For Men Only, and that's like a whole chapter. Like, you are not alone, is what I'm saying. There's a lot of women who struggle with that. Men too. Who just need that assurance. And a lot of guys just don't know that we need to give it.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times men think, well, I married you, and like I gave you the ring, and in their minds that's, they really do mean it's for the long haul, but they don't feel like they have to repeat that over and over, But for women, like, we need that reassurance. And I know, like, we've been married 2.5 years. Right?
Okay. Nice.
He's better at remembering the years and stuff. But it took me a while to realize, like, he's not going anywhere. I mean, even though that's what we both wanted, and I knew in my head, but it took him telling me, like you were saying, Amanda, like, over and over. He told me once, I think you heard it from a preacher, but if you leave, I'm going with you, or something like that.
Yeah, Bodie says that.
Yeah.
I'm following you, But just the constant reminders, and now it's kind of like second nature to me. I know where he stands. I mean, and I don't have to be reminded as much, but I still need that reassurance every once in a while.
For the men listening who haven't read the book, For Men Only, they interviewed millions of women who kind of asked all these questionnaires, and they asked women the question, do you feel insecure about your relationship, like your husband might leave you about as often as most, more often than most, less often than most? And overwhelmingly everyone said about as often as most women. And so the follow-up question was, how often do you feel like your husband might be about to leave you? And the answer was 3 to 4 times a week. So most women feel like they, like, several times a week, feel like their husbands might leave them. And so it's our responsibility as husbands to encourage them and to love them and to remind them constantly that I'm here forever. And most guys don't know that, though. See, there's the thing. Most guys haven't, like, That response, that was my response. Whoa, that was my response. I was like, no way. I was single when I wrote that. And I asked a bunch of my lady friends, and they were like, yeah, that's pretty much right. And I was like, no way. But it's true. And it's just, in many ways, God has wired us differently.
Yeah.
Complement us with each other.
I think that's good, though, because, you know, if we were both black and white, there would be no cushion, you know, with like, no, this is over. It's done. And then, yeah, you're right, it's done. Or if, you know, we were both super emotional, if she's thinking 3-4 times a week that I'm going to leave her, and I'm thinking 3 or 4 times a week she's going to leave me, there's no stability there either. So it's like we really need, you know, I need her to tell me that everything's not going to be okay sometimes, to make me think, okay, I need to take care of these things, and then she needs me to say, hey, everything is going to be all right because of this, you know. So, well, I mean, we desperately need each other.
Yeah. So hey,
I'm not sure how helpful it is, but because me and my brother are both very single at this point, but we've always told each other, remember, until the ring goes on, it's my job to test the relationship, as it were. It's to make sure that you want it forever, not to, you know, try and destroy it, but to make sure that you're getting what you actually want for life. To keep it strong, to make sure that it can grow.
So to validate the character of the person you're dating, maybe, and give them opportunities to validate your character.
That's very much a better way to say it. Because really, we just said, it's like, look, whoever you marry is going to be my sister. So I'm going to make sure that I get a godly sister and you get a godly spouse. So we're going to make sure. And that's how, as two single guys that are overly competitive, try and help each other.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. So just pushing 8:30. Does anyone want to? We're pushing an hour and a half, I guess. People are all over the place. Sorry. Does anyone want to throw something in here at the end? Any last thoughts on the book or on dating or attraction?
I'd just like to say that we're going to try really hard to read the next 2 chapters. And we're sorry.
No, don't apologize. I have to read it because I'm leading this, right? Like everyone else has a bye. No, awesome, guys. Well, thank you all so much. This was so much fun. Like, I really enjoyed this. I hope you did too. Next week we're doing chapters 3 and 4. We're only doing those 2, so it should be a little easier. And he's talking about, I meant to write this down, but I didn't. We're talking about courtship and wedding bells. So it's the, I don't know, more than dating and then marriage, I guess. I don't know. We'll find out. I'm going to read it this week too. So chapters 3 and 4. I'm going to make a new event. I'm going to make a new event for the next week. You guys will all be invited. So we'll. Other than that, let me say a quick prayer and then we'll close out. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for bringing us together and giving us amazing men like Matt Chandler to encourage us in dating and relationships and marriage, and pointing us always back to you and to the gospel. I pray that as we go through the next week that you would keep us safe and grow us in knowledge, and that you'd give us opportunities to read and understand your word through this book. And I ask that everyone tonight has a good night's sleep. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys.
Next time.
Good night.
Reform your theology, reform your marriage.